Hello there, everyone, and welcome to Solar Sidekicks. This is episode 27, and my name is Pat Southwell, and I'm so glad that you are here joining us today. We're going to be talking about everything solar, what's been happening in the last week, and we do have a guest. Before we get to the guest, I'd like to acknowledge the traditional landowners of where we're recording this today. Oh, excuse me. And that's the Boonwurrung people of the Kulin Nation, and I pay my respects to all elders past, present, and emerging. Before we start as well, I want to extend my gratitude out to Sandy Adkins for last week's episode. So everyone knows Sandy from Energy Safe Victoria. He did episode 26 with us last week. I would say it was probably the most informative episode that we have done in this series. Sandy just lended so much of his talented mind to us, and there was so much to come from everything we spoke about. Wasn't just about all the stuff in 4777.1, but you're an absolute gentleman of the industry, Sandy. Thanks for everything you've done in it, and yeah, it was really great to spend some time with you as we did last week. So thank you very much for that, Sandy. All right. And one other thing, we're here doing an early morning recording today, which, yeah, probably a little bit earlier than we would normally do. That's because it's a public holiday here in Melbourne today. It's grand final Friday, and pretty much, I mean, it's just about the start of the cricket season. So we've got I know I've mentioned a couple of times the women's team, the inaugural women's team for Carrum Cricket Club. They are playing their first practice game today, so that's quite a big day for the club, and I'm actually going to be coaching them. So I'm going to be shooting off from here and heading out to help them all out with their first game. So good luck to all the women playing in their first game. Let's get to the guest for today. All right, so coming in to the studio, we have Ashley Branson from XTech Renewables. Thank you, Ashley, for coming in. Welcome to Radio Carrum.
Thank you, Pat. Much appreciated for having me.
No worries. How was your trip this morning? Would have been pretty quiet, I reckon, with not much traffic, public holiday.
Nothing on the road, which was fantastic. If only every day during work was like that at 7 a.m., you know?
Yeah, I know. Imagine that. Oh, actually, a funny thing, just to, before we get to too much, so Ashley is a licensed electrical worker, runs his own business, and I do inspections for Ashley, and we met on a job yesterday in, where were we? Altona?
Yep.
Yeah, I'm surprised you're home now. Like, it was the Westgate Bridge was horrible. Did you cop all that as well on the way home?
I copped a little bit of it, but I think you copped the full brunt of it.
Yeah.
So you left like an hour and a bit, and then you still told me you went
it took
through
me
the tunnel.
Took me about 2 hours and 20 minutes to get home. So
Wow.
Yeah, horrible. Anyway, all right. Well, thanks for coming in. Ashley. Appreciate you making your way down to Carrum and being part of our podcast. So I've just sort of, spoiled it a little bit. You're a licensed electrical worker and you're working for yourself. XTech Renewables. What are you guys doing? What sort of work are you doing in the industry at the moment?
Yeah, absolutely. So basically, I started my business probably, I think it was November officially. Well, officially, I was working on it, trying to build up to the point where I can register myself and all the rest of it about November 2022. Started off as a sole trader, and then as I was, figuring out things, because you don't know what you don't know until you start jumping in, I transitioned to then forming a company, a proprietary limited, and then we've been operating under that since. So we've been working in operations for about a year and a half, a bit over, coming up to 2 years this November.
Yep.
It's been a great journey. I've learnt so much from it since the beginning, and so I learn every day, so yeah, I love it. So it's fantastic.
Yeah, that's cool. All right, well, let's go back a step. So you've been in the industry for a little while. You showed me a little while a video you did. You worked at another couple of little companies doing some stuff.
Yeah, so I'll give a brief explanation.
Yeah, for sure.
Because I started my apprenticeship. First off, I was doing electrical engineering straight after high school. And I'd always been conditioned to believe that it's university or nothing.
It's been a misconception. It's been, I heard someone say this week it's been a blight on our society, that people have just been pushed into university. It sounds like that's sort of what happened with you. You just sort of, you didn't really want to do it, or you just sort of thought...
So I'm someone that likes to listen to my intuition,
Yeah.
and I went to a science school called John Monash Science School,
Yeah.
and just being obviously a Monash Science School, they tried conditioning everyone to go to Monash University and all the rest of it. But I always wanted to try different experiences, because for me, it's through the different experiences that you have in life that you then learn the most. It's not through a textbook or anything. While you can learn certain knowledge, you don't get the wisdom,
Yeah,
And
sure.
so I like to expose myself to different experiences. And so I decided to go do to electrical engineering at RMIT.
Yep.
That's where my cousin went. He recommended it. And I just always had an interest in power, electricity, all the rest of it.
Yep.
So I thought electrical engineering would teach me all the right skills to be able to develop a product and start a company and all the rest of it. But
Let me guess, as a kid, you were like playing with batteries and stuff and trying to, get wires out. Not too much, or?
not batteries. I
No.
mean, when I was 13, I built my own generator. So I built this thing like that transformed AC power to DC power, because I learned about Nikola Tesla and I loved all that type of stuff. So I was always experimenting with my own stuff, but not necessarily batteries itself. But yeah, no, the electrical engineering, I just felt after a year of being in it, there was something, you can't pinpoint what exactly it was, but something inside me was saying, if you keep going down this path, you'll get a good job, you'll get good pay, but you'll hate life. And, I didn't want to lock myself into something was resonating that I didn't want to do.
Fair enough.
And so eventually I just pulled the trigger, even though the advice of everyone around me was like, what are you doing? You're so smart. Why are you doing this? You're going to ruin everything.
Mate, it's easy from the cheap seats. Everyone else can tell you, give you all this advice. That's up to you, though, isn't it?
Yeah,
as to
absolutely.
what you do. So was that a year in you pulled out?
So I did the year, and then I started my second year, and I decided to end one day after the consensus date. So meaning now I had to still pay for the full semester, which was like $5,500, even though I only did 2 weeks of the year.
Because aren't those unis making enough money as it is?
Ridiculous. They cry that they need more money and all the rest of it, but they're doing well off. So.
Yeah. Okay. All right. Cool. All right. And then what was the next step after that? What'd you do after you pulled out of uni?
Well, then instantly I'm like, I'd like to be an electrician, and I need to get more leadership skills. So I thought I'll go to the Defence Force, and I applied through the Defence Force. And when I did the selection process, not to toot my own horn, but I did pretty good in the exam process. And so when I was in the officer meeting, well, not officer meeting, with a meeting with the officer in charge, he convinced me to, no, don't do this, go become officer in the Defence Force. So I ended up going through that process. Got flown up eventually to the Royal Military College in Duntroon.
Oh, right.
Did the whole process, and then I came to the officer selection board, and again, just something happened, and I was the only one in the group that wasn't selected. And
Okay. How many?
There was, I think, there was 9 people or 10 people that went up, and all of them got in except me.
Yeah, okay. How do you reflect back on that now? Like, do you wish you got in, or
No.
Now you reckon it's been a bit of a blessing in disguise, or?
Oh, absolutely. Everything happens for a reason.
Yeah.
For me, I don't believe in coincidences, and so they asked me a question when I was in the meeting. Why do you want to be a leader in the Defence Force? And I don't know what came to me was, you. Not word for word verbatim what I said, but this is along the lines. I said something along the lines of, you guys will teach me to be the best leader that I can be. And, all good things eventually do come to an end. And so when my time is up with Defence Force, at least I have all those leadership skills so that I can transfer it over to start a company to help more people around me. The instant response from I think it was the second in charge of the entire Defence Force at that time was, so you want us to train you and then you'll just leave. So you want us to invest all this money in you and then you're just going to leave. And I'm like, that's not what I meant. And then boom, they just drilled me in a way that
once they had an opening with that, it sounds like a journalist
Yes.
just jumping in on something that, once they had their narrative.
And then bang, it was just, no, this is not right for you. Try again in the future. And next day I came back and got an apprenticeship.
Yeah, okay. Yeah, right. So let's talk about that apprenticeship. What were you doing?
So the moment I came back from the Defence Force, I contacted TAFEs because I had no idea about the TAFE process or anything like that. And I said, hey, I want to be an electrician. How do I do it? And they said, oh, you're better off being a plumber because you don't know anyone in the industry.
Who said that? You're better off being a plumber.
I can't remember the tape I called, but it was something like that. And I just thought, wow, so unless I know someone or I've got a pre-apprenticeship, I can't become an electrician. It's too impossible. And I said, all right, go away. I'll figure it out.
Yeah.
And
you, didn't consider plumbing? Or
No. It's just it doesn't resonate.
Nothing. Me too. I got nothing against plumbers, but just to say you're better off becoming a plumber, like that's. I don't know. That's an interesting thing to say.
We'll keep it PG.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah.
But nothing against that. But it just wasn't who I am. And so
fair enough.
I went onto Gumtree and typed in electrical apprentice, and there was one ad. And it said, looking for an electrical apprentice. And that was all. And so I just sent my resume. 3 hours later, the guy called me and said, hey, do you want a job, help us out on site? They were doing commercial solar installation.
Yep.
So I went out the next day, helped them carry panels on the roof. And 3 days after that, he then saw that I was pretty interested in this, and he saw
pulling your
potential.
weight, doing your stuff, had a good attitude.
And he's like, hey mate, you want an apprenticeship? And I said, I'd love one, thank you. And so it only took 3 days from someone saying, no, it's going to be impossible, to then boom, it was possible. So bang, everything happened for a reason.
Yeah. Oh, that's cool. All right. And so you went straight into solar.
Yep.
Your electrical background, or the electrical trade background, started in solar.
Yeah.
Yeah. Right. Yeah. How do you reckon that's like, so, all right, there's people around who would think, oh, you need to do a whole lot of different stuff to be a well-rounded Sparky, right? And that's where solar gets a bit of a bad rap because, it's pretty, well, people see it as one-dimensional. Certainly not my thoughts anyway. Like, I see solar as reasonably well-rounded anyway. You're doing a lot of the stuff that, a general Sparky would do anyway. What's your experience with that? Do you think that, I don't know, you're not as a well-rounded Sparky because you've been doing solar a lot, or do you think you've got experience doing other things, or it's all kind of the same? Where do you sit with that?
Well, as I said previously, it's all about different experiences. And so long as you can find those experiences where you can open yourself up to learn different things and provided those opportunities and you find those opportunities, then the sky's the limit for you. And so a lot of people that think solar is just, okay, you only learn solar and it's a lot of mechanical based work as opposed to fully electrical, running cables, this, that, data, all this other stuff. That's involved in solar. But at the same time, an apprenticeship's 4 years. So you have 4 years to expose yourself to all these different things before you become a qualified electrician where you can broaden your horizons. But again, it's up to you how much you want to learn, I guess. And so a lot of people, they just have this narrow-minded, focused approach where, no, I can only do this one thing because this is what my boss lets me do. But then why don't you go to your boss? Hey, how can I learn this? Or can you give me an opportunity with this? And not many people, for some reason, have the confidence within themselves to find it within them to ask a simple question, and the worst that could be said is no.
No, yeah, that's right.
And then if it doesn't resonate with you, why don't you move on?
Yeah,
and everyone has the potential to do that.
And even if someone does say no, well, at least then they know that you're interested in it, and then they might have a think about it and give you a chance down the track.
Exactly.
Yeah. Okay. Interesting. Yeah. I don't believe that anyway. Like with what a lot of people say, I think you'd learn a lot of stuff in doing solar anyway. Like you sort of mentioned mechanical. It's just a bit of wiring. There's actually a lot of wiring to do in a solar installation, and it's a different type of wiring. Like you're working with different voltages, different types of connections. It's quite technical, and we're in and out at like 10 different standards.
Yep.
Not just AS3000. So yeah,
all skills are transferable in my opinion. So if you really want to be a domestic Sparky where you just focus on property renovations or installing all this new stuff, that's fine, but doesn't mean you can't learn this or can't learn that.
For sure.
I guess it's just up to the individual with what they really want, And so for me, solar provided everything I wanted, including, I can go out and wire a house. Maybe not to the quickness and fastness and up to the proper standard in terms of, oh, wow, look, I'm able to wire a $3 million property to the point where the customer won't go, oh, no, it should be like this, should be like that. I'll still learn in that process, but at the same time, I can still do it. So solar hasn't inhibited me in any way possible, you know? And so I actually think it's, as you said, it's probably one of the best things to get into, in my opinion. I agree with that. I feel like it is transferable. Like I learned my craft doing domestic, and in that domestic sort of house bashing, it really was. I learned how to be, like quite early on in my apprenticeship, how to be a good fault finder. Yeah.
And yeah, a lot of people say people that are good at fault finding end up being inspectors. I don't know, and that's just the path I ended up going down. So it's definitely transferable, and yeah, no point just sort of pigeonholing yourself, I suppose.
Yep.
Because there's a lot of different areas in amongst those areas, I think, which you can learn.
100%.
Yeah, cool. All right, very good. So, how'd you go getting your A grade and all that sort of stuff? Was that all right? How was that process?
It was very, very interesting process.
Yeah.
So, I stopped my apprenticeship for a little bit during COVID,
Yep.
which extended my apprenticeship. I
Yep.
just thought I want to start a software company. And,
Yeah.
COVID, no cash type thing. Cashless payments was going towards the future. And so I just
Yep.
thought I'll try and start that. But after that ended up failing, I had my apprenticeship as plan B. So I went back
Yep.
to the apprenticeship.
Yep.
And worked on it all the way until I then had the exams. But then when it came to the exam times, I thought I was really well prepared, all the rest of it, and then life hits you in the face. And so what does that mean? Well, the first exam I did was what was it called? SWP, safe work practice.
Safe work practice. Yep.
Yeah. So you just follow a methodology of test and test, disconnect, reconnect. And I walk in and I thought, bang, I did everything. I went a bit longer, 45 minutes took me, but I was just methodically going through step by step. Get to the end of it, the inspector person that was watching me, the assessor, he comes in, he goes, wow, mate, you did fantastic. Unfortunately, you failed the moment you walked in. I said, what? So I went to an up, like this high of, yes, I passed, and then instantly, what do you mean I failed the moment I walked in? And so he goes, oh, when you came in, you touched the unit and said, is this the unit I'm working on? And I'm just like, oh. And so I have to wait another 2 weeks and keep the process stuck in my head. And that's just an absolute nightmare because I could have passed right there and then. Same thing with the LET, the theory exam. I thought I did really good, and then I got, I believe, 69% for my first one. And then I think I failed the second time and got 74%. And you need 75% to pass. And then the next time I got 90 something percent, which I was happy. And then same with the practical. Went in first time, do the 4 hours, bang, get 72%. I fail. I'm like, oh my God. And then, came back in after, again, another 2 weeks and then finally passed. So it doesn't matter. You can fail. But as long as you're persistent and want to get to where you want to get to, you'll make it. So
yeah, exactly. So I didn't realize that. It's 2 weeks you got to wait, is it?
Yeah.
It's 2 weeks. Yeah, okay. Yeah, I'm just getting flashbacks from LEI, where it's actually 2 months.
Yeah, so. I couldn't imagine that. Yeah. Oh, that's so hard.
I don't know if I could handle that if he said to me, you failed as soon as you walked in.
Oh, my God.
Because that's the same thing. If you did that in your LEI, and they'd probably be harsher on you too.
Absolutely. Go back and do the SWP, mate.
Oh, jeez. Jeez. Anyway, yeah, okay. Yeah, so that's good. Oh, well, so... Yeah, so you failed all 3 of them, and you're certainly not the first one to fail all 3. That's you would have got a few learnings out of that. Yeah, that's definitely. For sure. And that's I did the same on my theory when I became an A grade. I think I got like 73 or 74, and then on the second time I got 96. Oh, nice. Really sets you up, doesn't it? When you fail it.
Definitely. Also puts your ego in check a little bit, because you think, oh, I know everything, blah, 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 I'm good, I'm prepared, I'm well. And then you realize what you didn't prepare for and how well underprepared you actually were. And so I guess it's as opposed to a failure, it just gives you another opportunity for learning more about yourself to get better.
Yeah. Well, that's life hitting you right between the eyes right there.
Absolutely.
Yeah, okay, cool. All right, well, I reckon we're going to go to our first break. Ash. So when we come back, I want to talk a little bit more about just some of the work you're doing. Might have a couple of bit of a chat about some of your installs you've done and some of your customers and that sort of stuff. And then let's and then we'll sort of start to shift focus into a few other things about maybe some philosophy and some other things like meditation. I know you're right into that sort of stuff, so I'm interested in hearing your thoughts about it. All right, so we'll go to our first break and we'll be right back in just a few moments. Okay, and we're back from our first break. All right, it's a good start there, Ash. I want to have a little bit of a chat about what you're doing sort of with your business at the moment and a few of your operations and how you run things. So I always like to ask people that are running their own business and running apprentices, how they go with that and what their approach is. So do you want to just tell me about your apprentices so far? Like you run a few with your teams. How many are you employing, or have you got sort of running, that are working with you at the moment?
I don't do everything myself. I have a
Yeah.
business partner, Liam.
Liam, yeah. I should have mentioned Liam.
No, that's all good.
Yeah.
We were apprentices together back in the day. And
Yeah.
so, we became qualified. He went off, did his things. I went off,
Yeah.
did my things. And it just, everything fell into place. I said, Liam, can you help me with a solar install? Because I had a customer, my own friend, that wanted a solar. He said yes. And then after that, boom, we just decided to keep going and start a business with solar. And
Yeah.
at that point, I have a cousin and he was getting into the industry. And so I asked him, hey, can you be our apprentice?
Yep.
And he was more than happy to help out. So he was the first one.
Yep.
And then Liam had a friend that, was doing his own stuff in life, wasn't really had a focus in anything. And then Liam said, hey, would you want to be an electrical apprentice? And it triggered his mind as, yeah, absolutely. And so he came on board and helped us out. So we started with 2. So me, Liam, and then 2 under us. And then again, my cousin has a brother, and my cousin again. And so he's 17 and, hasn't got a license or anything like that. But, I thought, well, why not give him a shot? He's not doing too well in school in terms of it doesn't fit who he is. And,
Yep.
He didn't really have an idea of what he wanted to do. And so just thought, why not try this? Even if it's not for you, at least you'll start learning on what you can experience and
Yeah.
how it can move you ahead in life. And so he's come on board to help us out. So I've got 3 at the moment. We're actually just put an ad out yesterday on Seek.
I want to get to that in a minute, right? Because I saw that. I want to get to that in a minute. I want to get you to spruik that as well, because I think there's a lot of apprentices I think out there at the moment looking, potential apprentices looking, and I think the wheels certainly turned a bit as far as the industry being quiet. I think we're just sort of moving into a period where we're going to be really busy. So I think that's shifted. But let me just ask you about your apprentices, right? So I'm always interested when you have young apprentices, right? So you mentioned you got 17-year-old apprentice.
Yeah.
How do you approach that? Like someone who's not an adult yet and someone who doesn't drive a car, like a lot of other people who are in the workforce would, and obviously not quite as experienced at life, I suppose, yet as well. Mm-hmm. Have you got a different approach to 17-year-old apprentices compared to, like, say, a mature age? Is that how you would sort of run them as a boss?
Well, my cousin's a different approach because he's lucky in the sense that he's with my other cousin Dylan, who can drive him places and that because they live together.
Yep.
So it doesn't affect our work operations in any way. And but I can see from the perspective of a lot of other people out there, business owners, they'd be less inclined to hire anyone less than 18 that doesn't have a driver's license because how are they going to get to site? Blah 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 blah.
Yeah.
But, think back to when we were in school and all the rest of it. You'd take the bus and get there. If you had to get up, 2 hours early to go somewhere.
Yeah, you do what you got to do, don't you?
Exactly.
Yeah.
And so as long as, a young fella, whoever might be out there listening, has the drive within themselves to make things happen, even if life's not convenient for them right now, doesn't mean it will stop you, And so you have to think outside the box. And so if anyone that wanted to apply, I will hire anyone. And that's the thing is, as long as they are someone within themselves that wants to get better and can do it themselves in a sense. What do I mean by that? Well, you can't drive, so find a bus, do something. Calculate how much you're making and then say, okay, if I dedicated $100 to a taxi, is that still going to benefit me type thing? Yeah, I lost $100, but I'm still moving forward,
Yeah, sure.
So as long as, the 17-year-old or 16-year-old or however has it within themselves to figure out a way when there seems to be no way, then the sky is the limit,
Yeah,
and
more about attitude than age.
Exactly. And so it just, it's just those types of people are the ones that often are the ones that get hired regardless of their circumstances. And so it's up to the individual, I guess.
Yeah, very good. All right, that's good. Also with your operations, with what you're doing, well, we've had a little bit of a theme in the last few weeks about Victoria and how regulated we are with a lot of stuff. How do you go with that? Like, you're in amongst Solar Vic rebates.
Yep.
You got me to deal with it as an inspector as well. You've got ESV, CER. You know who they all are. WorkSafe. Everyone's on your back, kind of, making sure you're doing the right thing.
Yeah.
How do you feel like? Where do you feel like we sit in Victoria with that? Is it good, or do you think it's too much, or you think it's a bit of both?
Yeah, definitely a bit of both. I can see why, from a regulatory standpoint, they are so hard. You know, I've been targeted by WorkSafe, not targeted, but they've come out to site because scan the QR code, they get notified, and so
they target everyone.
Exactly.
They do. As soon as you scan that QR code, it pings a whole lot of different people.
Exactly.
And you may become a target.
Exactly. And so, but I never fear because I'm always doing stuff within the bounds of the law. You know, I sign the swims, get the boys to sign on, set up the edge protection, set up all the safety procedures, and that's necessary from a management standpoint because, you know, as you know, I don't know anyone individually within this industry, but I know it's happened. People have died, you know, and that's just something due to the nature of the high risk work that we're in. You know, you're working at heights, you fall, you can land on your neck, bang.
Yeah,
dead.
I think we've been pretty lucky in Victoria, I think, but there's certainly been deaths in New South Wales, like people falling through skylights. An apprentice fell through a skylight 5 years ago, I think.
Yep.
There's been a couple of stories, and it's you're right. You don't want to be that person who is not trained your apprentice or whatever, not hooked up your harness or not provided a harness or whatever. You don't want to be that boss.
Exactly. And, you know, because you're taking the risk of, you know, being in charge of those who are learning from you, you have to then have the responsibility to provide all those procedures in place so that they go home safe at the end of the day, regardless of the nature of work.
Yeah.
If that means you have to pause a job or whatever and cost you some money because of X, Y, Z, well, that just serves as an opportunity for you to increase your business's efficiency in certain areas, as opposed to a liability of, I lost $1,000 this day or 2,000 or whatever it might be.
Yeah.
But, you know, you mentioned New South Wales. What's the difference between Victoria and New South Wales and other states like that? Well, we are more heavily regulated here than compared to other states, but it's for a reason. So that stuff doesn't happen. So that's why we are more fortunate here in Victoria that those types of injuries and all the rest of it don't occur as frequent, you know? They shouldn't occur at all. But due to life, things happen, you know? But we have to just try anything we can to minimize those potential dangers. Because everyone, there's no point going to work and then not going home. Or incapacitated to work forever after coming to work, you know? So from a management standpoint, try to do everything to always increase the safety. And that's just not me spieling to go, I'm very safe. All the rest of it, I am. But at the same time, it's still all a learning procedure. So it gives those under us that don't feel safe in certain areas, why don't you feel safe? All the rest of it. And then we can put different procedures in place that, you know, WorkSafe or someone hasn't thought of that then could be beneficial for more people, you know? So I don't know. I guess it's good that it's heavily regulated, but it's also, I guess for those ones that don't do and follow the law because they're just focused on getting money quicker, they should be feeling that, oh, they could be after me. They could be after me because just follow the law, do what's right, and you don't need to feel as if, you know, I'm doing anything wrong. Come to site, have a look at everything I'm doing. You know? I don't care. Watch me the whole day. Go ahead. So that's how I approach it, I guess.
You reckon there's a few unscrupulous kind of, you know, cowboys, still a few out there in the industry? Yeah,
absolutely.
there is, isn't there?
You know, you don't get a full basket of good apples. There's always one or two bad, and that's just life, I guess.
I mean, I think Solar Vic and ESV doing a pretty good job to weed them out. I don't think they're ever going to totally get rid of them, but they can always make their life more and more difficult, and they'll probably get them in the end, or all those people can just move on to another industry or do something else. Or whatever it is. Yeah. No, I've always found you guys with your approach, you're always quite open to, you know, if there's something you've done wrong or whatever, or not quite right, always quite open to feedback, be able to improve better. And I think that's the thing for me. Like, it's all about attitude. I don't think I've heard you guys say that's not the right way to do it. You know, we know we're doing it the right way. It's always like, how do we do it better? And I think that's really important. And so, yeah, you guys have all been really, really good about that, open to learning and doing things a better way. I think that's will hold you in good stead, I think, towards the future you put your process in place and you're always trying to improve. So I think you guys are pretty good with that, which is good. All right, I want to ask you a couple of questions about like some of the customers you've had, right? So you're doing a fair few installs around. You got any funny stories, or you got any interesting installs that were sort of memorable?
You get many stories throughout your time, you know. But you know, it's funny. Most people are very nice and very welcoming. Hey,
you mean customers? You mean like their homeowners?
Customers.
Yep.
You know, you would like a coffee, a cup of tea, biscuits, all this other stuff, and you love to work for those types of people. But then you do get, again, the bad apples amongst the bunch, which, you know, hi, could I please use your toilet? And I'm sorry, it's a brand new house. I can't let you use my toilet. What do you mean? The closest toilet's 15 minutes away. I'm sorry, but I have people coming next week, so I can't let you use the toilet. I was just like, oh my God. I still do a good install for them, but I can understand that you do that to most other people, and then the installer will be like, all right, well, yeah, well, fine. I don't care anymore, you know? It's just like, it's just...
You could see how someone's attitude would change.
Absolutely.
as soon as they wouldn't let him use their toilet.
And I won't lie.
That really happened. That happened, did it?
Yeah,
so you had someone say twice. The same person or two different people?
Two different people. And that was in the last 6 months. So,
right.
I couldn't believe that. But there are some people out there that are like that, I guess. But it's your job to not overreact and all the rest of it. And I can't say that I didn't overreact. I was a bit frustrated and I'd make a few sliding comments to the air. But it was just, I just couldn't believe it just because that's not who I am. If you need to use the toilet, absolutely. But it's just, some people are out there are interesting. But most of the customers are very, very nice. So I'm happy. I'm thankful for that.
Yeah, it doesn't seem reasonable to me. No, you can't use my toilets.
Oh my gosh. And then you get some customers that will just watch you all day.
Yeah.
Where it's like, they're over your shoulder looking at absolutely every part of everything you're doing without even understanding what you're doing and then asking you if you're doing it right. And it's like, you don't know. And yes, I am doing it right. That's why Inspector comes, has a look, make sure everything's all good. Yeah. But, you can't let that hit, get you too. But at the same time, it's like, you just think if you're in the office or whatever, how would you feel if your boss was just all day over your shoulder, not letting you work? You just feel like you're doing something wrong, even though you're not. And it's just like, can you just leave us to do our job? And you'll get a better system, better everything just because we are more comfortable to work how we are.
Yeah.
But you just have to deal with it as it comes.
Yeah, fair enough. I agree. There's good and bad, isn't there, with the customers? Yeah. I'm sure I'd be able to work out probably who that customer was if I've inspected them, because they're probably the ones that are like, no, you must come, 3 p.m. on Wednesday, and then you can only come between 3 and 3:30.
Yep.
And then the only time, and then you have to come between 10 and 12 on Saturday. All these sort of things, and it's like, do you want your system inspected or not?
Yeah. Do you want it? Do you want to save money or not?
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. All right. Okay. Cool. All right. Let's shift focus a little bit. So you have just come on a bit of an expedition. I don't know if you call it an expedition or what was it? You just came back from India. You left. What did you go for 2 weeks? Something like that.
I went for 3 weeks.
3 weeks. Was that your first time in India?
Yeah, very first time in India.
First time overseas?
First time overseas by myself, if you know what I mean.
Yep.
Without anyone coming with me type thing.
Yeah. What'd you go for? What was why did you decide to go? And did that end up being the intention that you went for? Like, did you come back and go, I actually went for another reason, if that makes sense?
Well, all right, I'll tell the story a little bit. I had a meditative experience a couple of years ago.
Yep.
And the words Kailash came to my head.
Yep.
And I'd never heard of that before. And so I read it, I looked it up online, Kailash, and that supposedly is a mountain in India. And that's where Shiva, the Hindu god, stayed at the top. And then there's a whole story behind that. That's basically where Hinduism apparently started. And I had no idea about any of that stuff prior to the meditation. And it's like, I just felt it interesting. How could these words come to my head type thing? Because it just doesn't sound real. Like how? And so long story short is basically I really wanted to go to Mount Kailash. And I had this Swami from India that was going to take me. And then he ended up going, I asked him after I booked my trip about 8 weeks ago, how much does it cost to go to something like this? Oh, £10,000. And I'm like, 20,000 Australian dollars? I don't have that to go to Mount Kailash. Oh, £5,000. Oh, how much is in your bank account?
Yeah.
And instantly there was something inside me that was going, you're not a proper Swami or anything like that, because those who are true to that sort of stuff care about you as the person, nothing about money. And so even if you have nothing, they'll help you find a way to get there.
Yep.
And so me being me, it just didn't resonate with my intuition. I told him, go away. You're not a proper person that cares about a person, blah, 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 blah. So for 2 weeks, I was in limbo of, do I go, do I stay, do I go, do I stay? Because now, again, I knew someone over there that would help me, all the rest of it. And I'd heard all these stories about India, and I just was putting all this stuff in my head, like, oh, be careful of this, be careful of that, be careful of tigers and all this other stuff. And I'm just, oh my God, do I go? Do I go? And so for 2 weeks, I'd go to work and just contemplating internally, like, do I go? Do I stay? Do I go? Do I stay? I could just stay here and help work on my business more. Or do I, but I need to go. I feel like I have to go. Fast forward a little bit. And then I came home from work 2 weeks after having this like internal monologue. And I rocked up in my driveway, got out of my car, and went into the garage. And as I went into the garage, I felt what I can only describe as tingles go through my body. And I turn around and there's a piece of paper like folded next to my car as I got out on the ground. And I just felt that interesting. And so I went over, picked up the piece of paper, opened it up, and it wrote Nim Karoli, State Uttarakhand. I'd never heard of Nim Karoli or Uttarakhand or whatever this stuff was. So I Googled, what's Nim Karoli? And Nim Karoli, if you Google, is like an Indian guru, Indian mystic. He died in 1970 something, late 1970s. But I never heard of that. And I just, the tingles, how the paper was there. No one left it in my car. No one walked up the driveway with a couple of steps that I took in front. And I just felt like, wow, like it was an answer to my internal monologue. And I then thought, all right, I'm going. And so went over to India, stayed in a place called Nainital.
Where's that? Where's Nainital?
Nainital's in Uttarakhand. It's like 2 kilometers high in the mountains. And so it's a city on top of the mountains.
Is this northern India?
Yeah, North India. And stayed up there and then ended up going to the Nim Karoli ashram. It's getting very popular up there. A lot of people go every day because, you know, Virat Kohli, the cricketer, went there in 2022, and so anywhere someone celebrity goes in India.
Well, it's busy because he went there. I know he's King Kohli.
Yeah. And like it was dead before. Well, not dead, but it was known people there, and now there's 500 people there every day walking around.
King Kohli went there. Wow.
Yeah. And he's not the only one that went there. You know, over time, the Beatles have went there. Steve Jobs went there. Mark Zuckerberg went there.
So it's pretty.
Ram Dass went there.
Pretty high profile site then.
Yeah. So there's a reason why so many people were drawn to this person. But for me, it was that piece of paper. I'd never heard of him prior to that. And it's like, to me, it was a miracle, you know? It's just like, wow. And I had a few experiences when I was over there that then just, you know, confirmed everything for me. And I was just like, wow, like, you know, you don't believe it in a way. You can listen to someone like myself explain a story, but you don't believe this sort of stuff unless it resonates with your own experience. And if you have your own little experiences, which you can't explain to someone else unless they themselves experienced, then you know for yourself it's real. But for me, it was just completely like amazing. Came back here, last week, and then I decided to go see this psychic lady that I saw a couple of years ago on the basis of a recommendation of my friend. The moment I walk in and we're about to have a session, I said, I just want to have a chat. You know, I just got back from India, and she cut me off and she's like, I heard Babaji. And I was just bang, whoa. Like, how? I haven't spoken to you in 2.5 years, 3 years at all. And the first thing I say to you is, I just got back from India, and you respond back with, I heard Babaji. And Babaji is just another way to call Nim Karoli, you know, Maharaji. It's just all these different, like, very reverent type titles that you give a holy person or guru or something that the divine is flowing through. And for me, it was just like, wow. And she pulls out a book of Nim Karoli, and it says Whispers in the Heart. And, you know, I'd just been writing all this poetry about, you know, the heart and all the rest of it. And, you know, too many people are stuck in the brain and the mind, and they think mind over matter. And that's true from a certain perspective. But at the same time, unless there's that purity of heart within someone, that purity of heart is the thing that people are then drawn to. And for me, Nim Karoli had a pure heart from what everyone else said. And he would be drawn to those who had a pure heart also. And it just feels like, you know, I'm not saying I have the purest of hearts or anything like that, but I've always lived my life to try and be as honest and truthful without applying any deception, because you can use deception to manipulate people, but there's something about that, you know, it doesn't resonate with who I am. And so for me, I guess, you know, maybe Nim Karoli was drawn to that honesty of myself and I to him. And yeah, now it's opened up a different perspective in my life, in a sense that no longer am I now confused or letting the external factors influence me, to which I am fully reactive. I'm now able to see it as a joke, you know? If I fall over at work, as opposed to going,
it's the end of the world, or
whatever. Blah, blah, blah. I just laugh and go, you silly fella, blah, blah, blah. And so I don't let anything affect me now. Now it's only been a week and a half since
Yeah.
being back, so we'll see how time progresses. But at least, anytime stuff like that happens, I just think to myself of how I was in India,
Yep.
the peace and bliss that I was experiencing, and instantly this wave of calmness falls over me, and I just feel like nothing can affect me, regardless if a customer will tell me if I can't go and use their toilet or anything like that. So that was my experience from India coming back to now. So,
Interesting. That's right. So that's okay, cool. What did you think of India as a place?
Very interesting. It's completely different to Australia. Like Australia is very law based. Follow this, drive in straight lines. In India, the first moment driving up to Nainital, the taxi driver, he's getting impatient because we're behind this truck, like going up a mountain, like near Alinda or something like that.
Yeah.
And we're going around a bend in which you can't see anything. And he's like, nah, stuff this. Goes on the wrong side of the road, which there's a 1 kilometer drop if we fall off. And the only protection we have is him beeping the horn, beep, beep, that we're going around the corner. And I'm just holding on. I tried putting on my seatbelt. He said, take your seatbelt off. Really? Like, whoa. And here, if you don't have your seatbelt on, you get a fine. But over there, nah. And they're all in between the lines like this. And beeping is their only way to communicate. Here, you get beeped at. You just think, what do you want? Blah, blah, blah.
Yeah,
There's tension. But over there, the beep is more just like, hey, I'm coming. Hey, I'm coming.
Yeah.
And so it's definitely a different culture shock. You got thousands of people walking on the streets all the time.
Millions even.
Yeah, 100%. I have a video where you see like this festival and there's like millions of people just walking down this one street all crammed, but they're all having the most joyful time.
I've heard that a lot about India. Where'd you fly into?
I flew into what was the place called? Delhi.
Delhi.
Yeah, Delhi. I don't really like that area. Not to say that Delhi's bad or anything, but just it's very heavily polluted with the smog and all the different stuff there. And you can definitely feel when you try to breathe in, no oxygen's going into your body. It's just so you just it's hard. It's hard to explain unless you experience it. It's kind of like walking into the butterfly enclosure in the zoo where it's humid, all the rest of it, but it's all pollution, and they're working on it. I spoke to a few not ministers over there that were working on environmental stuff. And I feel like where India is now is they're becoming more like how we are as a society now, where they're looking to implement all these different things to prevent pollution, prevent littering, and increase the safety, because there's a lot of different things that happen over there just because of the no law type structure. Everyone's able to do whatever they want, and with that comes big chaos, you know? Whereas in our society, we're very structured and ordered, but with that, it feels as if a lot of people here have lost their touch with that closeness towards nature, you know? It's very mechanically based here, where it's very free over there. But with the absolute freeness comes more danger. And so I feel like there needs to be a happy medium between the both, you know? I feel like that would be the most ideal type of society, I guess. And so,
okay.
Yeah, that's Australia's one end of the extreme, and India's the complete opposite end of the extreme is what I experienced. But I loved it nonetheless. It was a great culture shock.
Yeah, right. Did you touch on any work stuff over there? Like, you would have been looking at roofs going, and seeing a solar panel, or probably not much rooftop there though, I suppose.
No, there's a lot. When you fly into Delhi, it's 10 minutes of flying over. Then you can see why it's one of the biggest city in India. It's just you keep flying, and you think you're coming to the end of the airport, like the end of the city, but no, you just keep going. And there's heaps of solar on all the buildings over there.
So there is rooftop, is there?
Absolutely.
Yeah, right. Because I know there's a lot of ground mount. Well, I've heard I don't know that much about the landscape in India with how much solar they've got. I've heard that there's a fair bit of solar farms going in.
I didn't see any solar farms,
but
a lot of rooftop
solar.
What a
rooftop, there you go.
But the thing is, with the Indian government, they're now introducing, they have been introducing a whole bunch of different solar programs to incentivize the use of solar in India, because the way that their energy system is there's so many people and there's so much demand on their grids that there's always power outages. That's why every hotel has generators, because every couple of hours, boom, everything goes off, but then the generators kick in, keep the power going.
They diesel generators?
I believe so, yeah. Smell the diesel fumes and all the rest of it.
Yeah.
But I feel like solar there is where solar was for us 15 years ago, when the government had those massive rebates, $8,800.
Yeah, that's right.
That type of stuff, or whatever it was.
AJ rebate. Yeah, I remember it.
That's I feel it's probably not the exact same in India, but from speaking to the people there, the government's heavily pushing into solar investments, so they cover a large portion of the customer's cost if they were to get solar over there. what type of products and stuff they use, no idea. But all I saw was this company called Waree, Waree, I think it was. They seem to be the biggest solar company in India. Advertised absolutely everywhere. And I feel like where they are now is where Australia was 15 years ago. So it'll be interesting to see where they come in the next 5, 10, 15 years. But I think they'll come to how Australia is eventually.
Very good. Interesting stuff. All right, cool. Well, we're going to go to our second break now. We'll come back and wrap the show up. So that and, there's a couple of other things I want to ask you about that'll be coming up.
Sounds good.
After the break. Okay, and we're back from our last break. Be wrapping the show up quite soon, and it's been a really good chat so far, Ash.
It's been amazing.
It's been really good. All right, so let's ask you the obligatory question we ask everyone. Are you a solar sidekick or are you a solar superhero?
How did I see that? How did I see that coming? I'll be one of those ones that will go against the norm, and I'm neither.
Well, that's okay. You're allowed to be neither, right? But you got to explain it.
So, in what way am I neither? Well, if I identify myself as the solar, the superhero, for example, or whatever it is, I feel like I limit myself through the identification of that to be a sidekick, because what if there's someone out there that I could then be the sidekick of, and we go together type thing. And if I identify as that sidekick, then I limit myself to then be that superhero for someone else.
Sure.
And so I guess the way that I'd describe it is, a seesaw between one end is sidekick, one end is superhero, and I'm that fulcrum in the middle. So I like to be that balance point of equanimity, I guess.
Okay.
If I was to speak like a philosopher. I can't even speak philosopher. But I don't like to identify as anything. I just like to, as the Chinese philosophy would be termed, wu wei, just take it as it comes. Be a ball floating down a mountain stream. I don't want to crash or resist anything. Just let it happen. So that's how I live.
Okay, that's fair enough. All right, so we're going with another category. I'm happy with your answer. A little bit different to Sandy's answer last week. He made up a new category, and he said he was a solar dropkick.
Fantastic.
So anyway, I like your answer. That's good. Yeah. That comes across really well. I think it also fits in with who you are too.
Yeah,
which is good.
Thank you.
All right, cool. All right, what do you reckon about our industry innovations? Where do you reckon we're going? So, a lot of grid connect stuff happening at the moment. Batteries going in.
Yep.
What's your vision? Well, not your vision. I don't know. Prediction. I don't know. Comments. I'm just interested in your thoughts about this innovation. Yeah. What do you reckon the future is?
I'm no Nostradamus, but if I was to put my finger on it, I feel like the off-grid type space is very ripe for the taking in terms of...
Bit untapped, you reckon?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
It's very... It's out there, but it's not to the point where people are well exposed to its potential applications.
Yeah.
Now, it's very expensive. It takes a lot of land. It takes a lot of time from an installation perspective, design perspective, make sure it's all working how it should be, because you can have lots of different issues occur. Now, I'm no ground mount expert or anything like that, but I've done a few ground mounts during my apprenticeship, so I know roughly what the whole process is. And for me, it was me and another apprentice in an A grade doing a whole 200 kilowatt off grid, for example, and it would take us, a month to finish that.
Yeah.
Just a fair effort just between 3 people. Obviously, you'd pull in more people for the panels and labouring and stuff like that at certain times, but for the brunt of it, it was 3 people. But I feel like there are innovative solutions out there already. But for
off-grid solutions.
Absolutely. That you can expedite that process and make it so much cheaper for the available public that it then becomes a viable solution that more people lean towards and look towards, because I just feel like if you're in control of your own power as opposed to being controlled by an authority through metering type system and all the rest of it, then it just opens up the doors for what you're able to do in life, I guess. You want to be able to power this without having to pay too much money there. You make that one simple short-term investment and then bang, you've got it for a long time, 20, 30 years or whatever it is to last.
Yep.
So I feel like, off-grid will be something in the near future that if the costs can come down in a significant way and the public exposure broadens, then I feel like that's the type of thing that will become the next big thing for solar. Right now, it's the battery BES systems, BESS systems, and all the rest of it that's coming out into the public limelight more and more as it develops. But I definitely think off-grid is the way of the future, and something that I'm going to be pushing more towards as I keep growing, I guess. But one brick at a time.
Yeah, okay. So you're actually not just talking about like remote off-grid where there's no grid, where there's. So are you talking about, is there like the scenario you're mentioning? Are you talking about where there's a grid available or not? So you're talking about just a normal suburban area where they're like, all right, that's it. I've had enough of you, DNSP. You can piss off, and now I'm going to have my own system. I'm going to generate my own power, and I don't want anything to do with you. So are you talking about that, or are you talking about, all right, it's going to cost me $300,000-$400,000 to get poles and wires to my property. I'm better off spending $200,000 putting an off-grid system with batteries in. Like
both.
You're talking about both, yeah.
So first off, it's obviously it's the off-grid system where better off spending $100,000-$200,000 as you just mentioned. But I feel like the apex of the mountain of what we can establish as a society is towards that. You don't need to rely on that DNSP authorities for everything. Right now, with our systems in place the way it is, it works pretty good, all the rest of it. But there are those people that want to have that control over
most definitely
their own situation. You know, the reason why Bitcoin on the crypto sense went through the roof in terms of the public limelight was because of that decentralization of someone the concept of being able to own your own, or hold your own money type thing. You don't need that intermediary, a bank, to be that one holding your money. And there was a system that was developed and then put out to the public. Now, it's an argument whether or not Bitcoin's good and all the rest of it, and everyone has their own opinion. I'm not for that. But for me, that idea of the decentralization of, say, for example, power generation, I feel is something that resonates with who I am. It's a dangerous topic if I was to put it out there in terms of like, all the things and conspiracies in the past and all the rest of it, or decentralized power. But someone like Nikola Tesla is who created the modern society we live in. And, he had hundreds of patents, and everything that we operate on is pretty much that came from his imagination through him, And so he had something like a wireless power transmission system, but with that came generation and all the rest of it. His AC generator, different oscillators, all the rest of it. That's been shunned from the public limelight for so long. And I won't go into the politics of everything because I can't be stuffed, because it's just going to go down a rabbit hole.
We're trying to wind the podcast up, not open a new one.
Exactly.
Yeah, but, it could be another podcast talking about that stuff.
We'll see. We'll see. I think in the future something like that will eventually happen, and it's only for the public's benefit as opposed to the minor few that have all the power, I guess. And so I think if the power is back in your hands, it's better for everyone.
I agree.
To a certain degree.
I agree. I think a lot of Australians would agree with that too. That we want the power in our hands, and that's what a lot of Australians do think. It's why a lot of them get solar too, because they take some of that control back.
Exactly.
Yeah. Okay. All right, cool. Well, before we wrap things up and go into our closing comments, just wanted to ask you about how you regulate your mental health. Like you mentioned a lot of the stuff. You obviously do a bit of meditation and those sort of things to keep your mind in check and healthy. It's a very stressful industry we work in. So renewable energy, well, solar in particular, there's a lot of victims of mental health. We all sort of counsel each other, and we've got to all work together to be better with regulating our mental health. What's your approach to that?
Yeah, well, that's one of the big reasons why I went to India and had this trip going over, I guess, was because I was letting all things externally influence my internal state. And so if something went wrong on site, bang, I'd blow up and react to anything, even if it was something that others would see as so minor. I made it seem so major, you know? And so for me, it's always been less about, whatever meditation or, do I do this? Do I do Om? Do I do whatever? It doesn't matter, because the goal for me is to become meditative. And so a lot of people focus on the meditation and they miss the meditativeness, And so what does that mean? Well,
Can you repeat that again? Repeat that again. A lot of people miss the they do the meditation and miss the meditative.
I guess we're going to have to listen back to what I said, but
No,
I think
no,
I said something like...
No, that's right, because that's a really good point. I really like that.
A lot of people focus on the meditation and then they miss the meditativeness, you know?
Beautiful.
And so for me, it's all about the state of becoming meditative as opposed to what meditation do I do and follow a guidebook, you know?
Yes, yeah. Or just it's not just the act of meditating, it's what state. Yeah, okay, I understand.
Anything can become a meditation, you know? I see my mum cooking and she's in a meditative state. She's doing something for the love of those under her charge just by cooking. And so even though you would say cooking's not a meditation, for her, she's becoming meditative as she does it. You know, there's a certain trigger within her that allows her to feel a certain way while she's doing it. And anyone can have that experience and has had that experience. So I hope people resonate with what I'm saying. You could go down for a walk with your dog and that becomes its own meditation, because in that state of you tuning off and just going into your imagination or whatever it is the person likes to do, they're becoming meditative. There's not one little thing. And I guess it's just all about finding what works for you, because, you know, what works for me might not work for you, but that doesn't mean that you can't still find what I then try to attain, which is that meditativeness. Now, I'm not meditative all the time. The gurus like Nim Karoli and all the rest of it, they are in that permanent state of absolute bliss of meditativeness. So nothing ever can affect them externally. That's something that I'm aspiring to hope to get and achieve at one point throughout this life. But right now, it's still a learning process for me. But yeah, it's all about becoming meditative. That's what I feel is good for the mental health, finding what works for you.
It's good. It's a different approach. I haven't heard people explain it like that. Not in our industry. I've heard people talk about that. But in our industry, it's more been about we need to do this, we need to do that, because you need to, you know, take the time away from solar, take the time away, make sure you're doing these things. There's a reason why we're doing these things, to be able to,
And see, even when that happens, it makes people feel as if, because I have to do this, it's a stress in itself. So it goes away from being that meditative state. I have to do it. And then you do it, but then you're still not finding what you were hoping to find.
For sure.
Know? And I hope everyone listening and those that listen in the far future, I hope they find what brings them the meditativeness.
Yeah.
So
for sure. All right, cool. All right, that's good. I reckon we might move into some closing remarks now. I can hear a couple of cricket balls and bats. They're going to start the practice match for the one, so I'm actually getting quite excited, getting into cricket mode today. So this is pretty cool. All right, so let's move into some closing comments. You got any closing remarks you want to leave us with, Ashley?
Yeah, I guess the only thing that maybe comes to mind is, you know, just to express my gratitude and thanks to everyone around me that has helped getting me to this point that I'm now talking to you, and that includes yourself, Pat. So, you know, there was a long time, not a long time ago, but a short time ago now, that we met at the Solar Training Center when I was doing my course. You know, on a whim, you decided to come in from the ask of, I think it was Steve. And presented yourself to the class of being an inspector, and it just so happened that during that exact moment was when I was starting my business and needing an inspector. And so, again, just everything fell into place. I approached you, and now here we are having a nice conversation. And so I guess I just want to extend my gratitude towards you for helping me in every way possible that you have throughout the time. And I really, really appreciate that. So thank you so much.
No worries. That's no problem at all. Been my pleasure, actually. I feel the same as well. You guys have been really good with the way you've conducted yourselves with your business. And it's been a pleasure to work with yourself and Liam. It's been really good. You've been a big part of our journey in the last 12 months as well. So I don't know if you realise that or not, but it's been a big part of the way we've done our business as well with the inspections. It's been great having you on. I don't know. Sometimes I look back on these episodes and go, this one's a little bit different. This one's a little bit different. It kind of was a little bit different, but I think it's good. It's actually expresses a lot about you and about the way you think and the way you're living your life. So, and I think that's interesting and important to express all those sort of things. So, I want to say thanks for coming in and thanks for everything. Thanks for all the work as well over the last sort of 12 months. No, it's been really good.
My absolute pleasure.
It's been really good. It's been a good mutually beneficial relationship. So
even though we're separate companies, I like to live by the philosophy that a company is nothing more than a group of people working towards a common goal to make an idea a reality. And so thank you so much again for helping us move closer towards that common goal that we want. So
yeah, for sure.
Yeah, without you, it wouldn't be possible.
No, no worries. No, thank you. Thanks very much as well. All right, well, that's all good. So let's we'll wrap the show up there. Just before we go, I want to mention next week we have Sophie Wright coming in. I usually don't announce the guest because I'm worried they're going to pull out or I've got to do a last minute change or something. Sophie reckons she's confirmed for next week. So don't make an idiot out of me, Sophie. Make sure you turn up. So really looking forward to that. She's going to be another cracking guest on the show. Also wanted to mention All Energy is coming up in about 4 weeks. We're getting close. We're getting very close. Everyone's working out where they're going to be, their parties they got to attend, what suppliers they got to suck up to, all those sort of things is all happening now. People getting their presentations ready. You're coming to All Energy this year?
Yeah, I'll be there this year, absolutely.
Yeah. That was your first All Energy last year, wasn't it?
Yeah.
What'd you reckon?
It was a good learning experience.
Yeah.
You know, being amongst the environment of all the like-minded people within our industry. You don't really understand how big it is until you're there. You know, you hear, it's a pretty big event, but then when you're there and you're in the big convention center with absolutely every company, the heads of all the companies, they're walking around and you're able to interact. It's a very good environment. So I guess come out if you're in the industry and want to have a chat. Absolutely, it'd be good to see everyone there.
Yes. Come and say hi to myself or to Ash. Definitely be.
I'll be at your party, Pat. So.
Yeah. Well, that's There's going to be a few people at that one, so that's looking forward to that. That's going to be fun. And you backed up as well. Went to the Smart Energy in Sydney. That was a bit of a smaller event, but that was quite good. A bit more intimate. Got to know a few people in the industry, which was good, I think.
Yeah.
So this one's going to be on a fair bit bigger scale this year. This is the main one of our industry. So
should be good. Should
be great. All right. Well, thanks very much, Ashley, for coming in. Really appreciate you giving your time for the podcast.
Thanks for the opportunity.
No problems at all. No worries. All right, everyone. Very happy you were able to spend the time with us listening to Ashley's journey and some of his thoughts on life. We'll be back at the same time next week on Solar Sidekicks. Thanks very much, everyone.